This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors and producers of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida, July 23 through 27. What you're listening to today is part of an ongoing series where we interview CEOs before the conference so that you can get a sense as an attendee with what exhibitors you'd like to focus your time and attention on. Today, I'm joined by a friend of very long standing, Mr. Frank Trotter. I've known Frank for 3 decades and consider him to be my favorite banker. He is here representing Battle Bank. Disclosure of conflict of interest, I'm a shareholder in Battle Bank. Frank, first of all, thank you for agreeing to this interview, and thank you, too, for your ongoing sponsorship of the Natural Resources Investor Symposium.
Rick, thanks so much for having me. It's a fabulous symposium, and we're both lucky to be there and delighted to support it.
Frank, for those who haven't known you as long as I have, tell me something about your background in banking, with particular emphasis on Everbank, your last bank, which under your stewardship grew from 0 in assets to $28 billion. Give us a history of what you've done and why we should care about what you have to say in Boca Raton.
Well, not unlike you, Rick, I started my career back in the early dinosaur period, around 1980, and worked for Mark Twain Banks for a long time. And we developed some very entrepreneurial items along the way. But after leaving Mark Twain, a number of us, including Vinny Amato, co-founder of Battle Bank, along with yourself, and I decided to start something called Everbank. We began that journey in the late 1990s and launched it, as you said, with no dollars on deposit, no loans on the books in 2000, and grew that to about 28 billion and its ultimate sale to TIAA, where it remains. And what we did, I think, was develop really products that clients cared about. We helped clients and were more than happy to treat them as human beings, which is unusual in this banking business these days. Answer their questions, give them good advice where necessary or good viewpoints, and provide great products for them to either deposit their money, diversify their assets, or borrow money when needed. So from a simple banking model, which seems to have been abandoned these days, I think we grew the bank very nicely.
Everbank became famous, at least in my circle, for the foreign currency deposit products and also for the precious metals. Perhaps you could describe something about the customized deposit products that you originated at Everbank, and also the problem with the plethora of deposit products that I would say plague the market today, particularly those that pay no interest.
Well, the World Markets division of Everbank, which we will recreate at Battle Bank as the Global Markets division, did deal, let's split it out, precious metals. So many of our clients want to invest in hard assets, gold, silver, platinum, palladium. They may want to have that delivered to their home and do what they need to with it. They may want us to store it in an allocated or an unallocated basis. And I want to emphasize that unallocated does not mean paper gold. That means we have it stacked up in a vault waiting for a client to call us and say they need it out of the vault. And we did that business for the nearly 17 years at Everbank and, of course, at Mark Twain Banks before. It's great business. And you mentioned the foreign currency deposits. In the early 1980s, when the U.S. prime rate was 21.5, many countries were also at high rates. In New Zealand at 27, Australia at 24, and others. And many of our clients began asking for foreign currency deposits. We'll roll forward to Everbank. We offered about 20 different currencies where you could hold them in money market deposit accounts or certificates of deposit. People diversified their portfolios into these currencies, held them typically for intermediate to long periods of time, and of course could transact in them. If they wanted to buy something in Europe or New Zealand, they certainly could do so. We'll make that wire. But they're really a deposit account of convenience and a diversification. They pay interest much like the country in which they are denominated. And then finally, our market index deposits allowed you to have principal protected investments following a theme. Perhaps it might be the stock market in general, one of the indexes with 100% principal protection, but also with a portion of the return on the upside. Some of our most successful ones yielded over 90% returns to the individual with no risk of principal. And those were, of course, commodity, currency, and precious metals based. Many of the stock market ones, one of the journalists had told us, why would you ever do this when we issued them in 2005? They came due in November 2008. I think the journalist understood perhaps why we were doing it, as the stock market was down 55% at that moment in time. So those are some of the interesting products on the deposit side. We certainly expect to do that and more at Battle Bank.
So fast forward from Everbank, you, as you mentioned, sold it to TIAA after 14 years in operation, then took some well-deserved time off, and here you are celebrating retirement by starting a new bank, Battle Bank. Tell us something about what Battle Bank is intended to be, in addition to being a successor, of course, to Everbank. Why Battle Bank? What are you doing this for?
Well,
Who are you going to serve?
Well, you're absolutely right that you and myself and Vinny Amato are celebrating retirement by starting Battle Bank. We're very excited about this. We think it's an opportunity to have a national community bank, branchless, all online, but with a significant backup on the phone. If you have a question, we have a first-class team of people, not your 18 to 21-year-old person reading off a script, but an actual human who has been a branch manager, a frontline person in a bank, and has done these transactions 100 times. But we look out at the big box banks and we see no value. You can take the list in your home and look at the checking account rates that are paid by whether it's JP Morgan, Bank of America, US Bank, and others, and it's basically zero. The money market rates are a little bit above that, but also basically zero. But they make you work to put your money to work. Our view, for example, is to do a high yield cash account, a single account where you put your money. You can treat it as a savings account. You can treat it as a checking account. You can do transactions. You don't have to do transactions. If we're open today, I would guess that's at 4.25% APY. Pretty spiffy rate for a checking account last we checked. And also the diversification of the global markets products. We expect you to be able to borrow against your precious metals holdings if you need to put that deck on or buy a business or liquidity of any range, perhaps even buy more precious metals. And as a national community bank, we'll serve not only our community where we're headquartered here in Eagle County, Colorado, but also nationwide as individuals come in with borrowing needs and also, of course, their deposit needs. And we'll be open to both U.S. and Canadian citizens initially, and we expect to expand that down the road as time goes by.
One of the things that I found so useful at Everbank was, for myself, a frequent participant in Canadian capital markets and private placements, that I could maintain a U.S. domiciled Canadian dollar account that I could sweep in the proceeds of Canadian sales and make new Canadian dollar denominated investments in. And I'm looking forward as an individual investor to participating in precisely that service from Battle Bank. The other thing that really excites me about Battle Bank, Frank, is Battle Bank's idea that you actually own and control your own IRA. Could you talk about the checkbook IRA product, which I find particularly exciting?
Absolutely. And we're very excited about that as well. If you go to a major broker dealer, you can buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and just run-of-the-mill stuff. But perhaps you've retired, you have a 401k, and you're really interested in multifamily housing. You're going to have rental properties. It's hard to do. Schwab and Fidelity will tell you no. A checkbook IRA allows you to open an IRA at Battle Bank, and underneath that form an LLC, in which you will be the 100%. Your IRA will be the 100% owner. From that LLC, you can purchase things that are eligible to be held in an IRA, such as multifamily housing and hard money loans and many other things, private equity. So not only will you be able to use those funds without withdrawing them from your IRA and incurring tax liability, but you can then have income producing properties private equity loan, private equity investments, other loans. And in addition, Battle Bank will consider lending to those multifamily housing, for example, to help you to leverage that. You can only put your cash in, but perhaps borrow a little bit, and it'll be more conservative basis because, of course, there's no recourse. But on the other hand, that way you can enhance the value of your IRA and put you in control, which again is what Battle Bank is all about.
One of the things that is intriguing to me about Battle Bank is the fact that when you opened Everbank, you had exactly zero backlog of prospects. Now your prospect backlog is well over 7,000. And I would attribute that to the fact that Battle Bank's advertising is much more educational. In other words, the approach to social media, the approach to advertising, customer outreach that you have is all about providing education to the customer, a benefit from advertising. Could you talk about that marketing strategy? I think it's very unique.
I think so. And, we've looked at advertising for many, many years, and certainly we do a little bit of marketing based on features and functions. But at the end of the day, we find that most of our clients have questions. How do I do this? What does this mean? When I look at a bank balance sheet? When I look at a bank income statement, what should I be looking for? What are some of the things I can do with my money? Not only just putting it in a high yield cash account, but perhaps should I consider the euro? Should I consider New Zealand dollars? Should I consider the Chinese renminbi? And our view is very clear. We're talking to an adult human as opposed to sort of pandering and telling people that because our sign is green, you should come bank with us. We think that we can mention our features and functions, but on the other hand, provide some value in advertising and in marketing. On LinkedIn, where you can follow us at battlebank.com on the web, and of course, Battlebank on LinkedIn. We have an ongoing series, both just quick snippets about what's going on in the world, but also some deeper dives into educational material. And we'll continue to do that throughout. And once we're up and running, expand that across all of the social media platforms.
Now, of course, you're going to be an executive sponsor at the Rural Investment Symposium, and people who are listening to this broadcast who want to learn more can meet you there. But I think it would be interesting for many people whose existing banking relationships I would best describe as sullen. If those people wanted to learn more about the educational outreach for Battle Bank and get on the list to receive information about opening product and services and that sort of stuff, how do they go about that, Frank?
Well, as you mentioned, first, absolutely come to the forum. It's going to be fantastic. Two, we have a website. Not surprisingly, it's battlebank.com. There's a little bit of information there, but you can join the wait list, and we provide periodic updates to everybody on that over 7,000 person wait list. We expect that to be well over 10,000 in the next couple of months prior to opening. We're very delighted about that. And finally, you can go to LinkedIn if you're participating in that basically a corporate network. But we have an ongoing series there. And there is a YouTube channel. It's not Battle Bank. It's Battle for Better Banking. It has all of the videos that we've done on LinkedIn in one place. So you can search for that. Join us at LinkedIn. Join us at battlebank.com. And we're looking forward to seeing everyone at the symposium in July.
Frank, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. Thank you, too, for your ongoing sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Forum. We're delighted you're with us, and I'll be very happy to see you there.
Looking forward to it, Rick.